Alright, welcome back to another Embrace Destiny video, everyone. We are continuing right off from where the last episode ended. My girlfriend has, we're part of the Girlfriend Plays Destiny series here, where she is pushing through on, I believe, the second level in Destiny. So, quite an interesting thing here, as you notice, is that in the early part of the game, there are these chests right here where you can collect loot. And I'm not sure what it is, but I found that it's the odds of missing that chest, of not actually seeing it when you go by, is about 50%, which is quite strange considering that's the exact opposite of what their Bungie is trying to do. So anyway, we found this chest, and inside was an arm piece, and this is just showing my girlfriend kind of how the upgrading system works in this game. In the early game, you basically just keep trading items until you find one that's of a higher light, a higher defense. This system has changed quite a bit since the game first came out, but this is the current system now. So in the early part of the game, you just keep swapping items until you get better attack, better defense. But later you actually get weapons that have traits or perks or qualities to them that are more desirable than others. Things that, you kill with this weapon and your grenade loads faster, things like this. So we're back here at the scene of the crime, right in the beginning where we found our jump ship in the first level. The first half of this mission was played in the earlier video, and my girlfriend found kind of a cosmodrome map system, which allowed her ghost to kind of give her better directions as to where to go. It's interesting here because Destiny spends quite a lot of time building up to being able to have a ship that can jump from planet to planet. Right now, the ship that you have apparently was barely able to make it to the tower and back. But if you're going to push back the enemies of the darkness, they want you to go further. I find this kind of interesting and a little bit broken if you think about it, because the lore of Destiny talks about how the darkness has pushed back so much that humanity only has one city left, the last city. And yet they want you to develop this, they want you to go out and find a ship with a warp drive or something that can allow you to jump to different planets. I mean, I understand taking the fight to the enemy, but maybe we should keep our guardians at home. We should keep them close by and pushing slowly out from the tower. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing and maybe a little bit broken, and I think it's mostly the rehashed, resplit story in Destiny Year 1. The first basic vanilla Destiny, as we call it, story is not great. It has potential, but a lot of it's kind of obscured or wished away, or I don't have time to explain what I don't have time to explain. That is an actual line you'll hear later in the game, and that's a little bit frustrating. But for now, we continue the pattern of Guardian, go to this place, kill the enemy. And my girlfriend just realized that most big bad guys have some sort of ground pound attack. It's a little bit frustrating, actually, and it's a trend that continues later in the game, but you cannot get within melee range of an enemy without him stomping the ground and pretty much just obliterating you. You can get around it when you get better armor and you learn a little bit more about the game, but in the beginning it is certainly not a good idea. So, also I apologize for no real background audio here. Usually there's, you hear the sound effects of the game and there's music and such, but had a bit of a recording issue, but I promise that later videos will have more audio. If my girlfriend allowed us to actually record her audio as we were playing, you would learn a few new French curse words. You know how it is. You play a game like this, the monster comes out of nowhere, you kind of react. It's been quite fun, and I've been enjoying I'm happy that she's been enjoying the game, and it's nice that now that she's picked up, most of the essentials, I can kind of just sit back and watch, cheer her on, point out a few things. Although I do have to remind her to reload a lot, like right here. She has 2 shots in her gun. And yeah, so it's fun. It's been an interesting process, and she's been making quite good progress through the game, I have to say. This level is frustrating, though. I have to admit. I mean, this area in this map, you visit several times throughout the first part of the game, and it's the first one where respawning is not allowed. So if you die here, it kicks you back to the beginning of this area. And that's particularly frustrating when there's so many little guys you have to face before you even face the big guy. But she's learning. She's getting there. She's got to watch her radar a little bit, though, I have to admit. There's been a lot of times where the enemies just walked around her or is standing right behind her, just like now. And you assume you're safe back here, but the enemy can come here too. I'm really looking forward to when she gets a little bit further along and she starts unlocking different abilities and able to use her super more. Actually, at this point, her super isn't even available. So, as you can see in the bottom left, the only, other than her guns, and melee punching, the only ability she has is her grenade, and it's enough for now. But when you're able to, to have a super-powered attack later on, it opens up a few more options. And is especially good for a Guardian who likes to get in nice and close, because it's the first super that you get introduced to as a Titan, anyway. It's called the Fist of Havoc, and it's it's basically a giant electrical temper tantrum that destroys enemies within a close radius. So it's quite fun. It's weird. Sometimes my girlfriend likes to aim down the sights exclusively, and sometimes she refuses to do so. I've asked her about it, and it's just whatever's more comfortable for her at the time. So I guess she's just getting the hang of it. You'll see in a much later video, Destiny did this cool update recently, and they actually... This gun that you have here, you don't keep it throughout the game. You find better weapons, and you trade up, and you eventually kind of lose track of this gun. But in a later mission, you actually find blueprints, and I might run that in a separate video, not in this this playlist. But you find blueprints to a weapon that's been worked on by both the Fallen and the Guardians, and you realize that it's this weapon here, but upgraded and more powerful, and it's quite an interesting gun, actually. You can use it to... Right here, this gun is an auto rifle, so just, what you think of by an automatic firearm. But the later version of the weapon, you can actually switch it between the different types of pulse, scout, which is one single shot at a time, or back to the auto rifle. The Titan's melee, I will praise it for all time, but there are some issues with it. A lot of people complain about the lack of range. The melee, the Titan melee is meant to be extremely close range. You basically have to be already touching the enemy before you can punch them, which is fair. You're just throwing your arm forward. The Warlock actually uses a connection to his, to his power, to his light, and their melee is actually a slightly medium range, because you send out some, bolt of energy. I don't know. There are people back and forth who complain as to how powerful it is, but it is a bit weird sometimes when you get killed outside of what you consider melee range by a warlock. I mean, the hunters have an even farther range in a sense, as they have a throwing knife. They can stab you at close range, and if you're just outside of range, they can throw their knife. Although my friend who runs as a hunter all the time complains because the buttons are basically the same. So you he always prefers if there was a way that you could differentiate between throwing your knife and meleeing with the dagger itself. So I guess it's not a common complaint though, because Destiny's had 2 or 3 years to change it or fix it, and they have not. So as you see here, the mission basically involves going back to where you found your ship, and while you're trying to get there to investigate where, a possible warp engine or whatever could be, you get ambushed by, well, actually, you walk in on a bunch of Fallen already in the area, and then you get ambushed by this big guy over to my girlfriend's left. There he is. A lot of the bad guys in Destiny have giant health bars, so they take takes a lot of damage to get through them. And this fight actually goes on for a little bit longer than we're showing here today. I didn't want to slow things down too much, so I actually cut it up a little bit. You'll notice that in about a moment the health bar drops away quite quickly. One interesting thing is, because my girlfriend was getting the hang of things, I started looking at my phone and not paying too much attention, and at this exact moment right here, she ran out of ammo, and she started tapping me and saying, "What do I do? What do I do now?" And it made me realize it's something in Destiny that's not properly explained. You'll be able to see here on the ground, it's flashing that she has no primary ammo, and the reason why, the place that you get ammo is actually located from the enemy themselves. So when you drop enemies, they drop when you kill enemies, they drop ammo, different types, and you have to basically run over it and pick it up in order to restock on your ammunition. But they don't explain that, and they don't explain the difference. You can see here on the ground there's a little green cube, but she's running over it and nothing's happening because it's filling up her secondary weapon. Now you can notice in the bottom left-hand side, it might be hard to see in this video, but right beside the secondary weapon, the shotgun, the special weapon, there's a little green bar which indicates it takes green ammo, and a little gray bar next to the primary, which means it takes gray primary ammo. But the problem is that it's a little too subtle. And it's a really difficult balance to walk here with video game design, I'm sure, where you don't want to beat your players over the head with too obvious, press X to not die, pick this up, here's a giant arrow pointing you where you need to go. But at the same time, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but it is strange that such a vital thing was not indicated. They could have easily added in a ghost, like had their ghost say something like, "You're out of ammo, search the ground," or something. Pretty easy interaction, but they didn't. And it's something I think they're picking up on in the rest of Destiny, but it's something that they definitely need to work on. So there it is. She beat the bad guy, found the jump drive, and that ends our video and mission for today. I hope you've been enjoying this series. Let us know in the comments below if you have any criticisms or constructive ideas, and feel free to like the video or subscribe to the channel if you want, and we shall see you next time. Thanks for watching.